Welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Meyers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And we welcome in a guy that I know you've known for a long time.
Well, yeah, I hate to tell you how many years, but many years. Fred Dorwart. We've styled this show the Consummate Professional because I, along with most people who know him well, think he is just that. He is the consummate professional as a lawyer, as a human being, as a citizen, just somebody that I'm proud to know and call my friend, although he is almost always my adversary.
And we're coming up today with more on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
I have a strong tradition of public service in my family. I started out in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I tried to pave the way for tribes, to work with state congressional delegations as well as state governments. My name is Franklin Keel. I had a career of public service here in the U.S. and abroad for over 40 years. I'm Chickasaw. After I retired, I really missed public service. And I became a volunteer at the U.S. Air Force Academy and worked at their JAG office as a volunteer attorney. American Indians have a stake in this country. Throughout history, we have fought for this country. Why would they have to ask you to fight for your country? America is not going to improve unless we do it together. I think there's a place for all of us.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As I indicated in the open, it's really a distinct pleasure for me to have Fred Dorwart, a longtime friend of mine, join us today because I want you to know, our viewers both in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and on YouTube, a little bit more about Fred. I suspect a lot of you already know quite a bit, but I think you'll enjoy what you find out today. Fred grew up in Muskogee. He's had an exemplary record. I told Mick when we were getting ready to look over this show that he has the kind of resume that I'd like to be able to make up, but I haven't. He was an outstanding student at Muskogee High School, was the national extemporaneous speaking champion as a high school student, went on to the Naval Academy, where he graduated with distinction, and once again accumulated some more public speaking awards. He then went on active duty with the U.S. Navy for a number of years. When he came back, he went to Harvard Law School. Once again distinguished himself, graduating cum laude, and was named the best oralist in his senior year, which is quite a distinction considering how big those classes are and how talented they are. He has been named in Oklahoma as Oklahoma Corporate Lawyer of the Year in 2020. He's been on the Board of Trustees of Tulsa University, has been president of the Kaiser Foundation, has just honor after honor, many of which we're going to talk about during the course of this show. The one thing that I would emphasize, and it's not on his resume, as well it shouldn't be, but I define the consummate professional as a lawyer is one who zealously advocates for their client while at the same time showing respect for the court and civility to their opponent. And Fred does that in spades as well as anybody I've ever known. So Fred, it is a real distinct pleasure for me to welcome you to our show and to let our viewers get to know more about you.
Well, Kent, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard you say about me. When we've been on opposite sides, sometimes you're not quite that generous. But I really appreciate it. Professionalism. Lawyers tend to think of themselves when they think of professionalism. I think professionalism applies to every work anybody does, whether it's a trade or whether it's being a lawyer or accountant or being a C-suite businessman. I think, and I don't know what the keys to it are, but I like to think of civility, which you mentioned, and respect. I think you do have to respect those with whom you deal, and kind of a third element of professionalism, Kent, I think maybe a generosity. Have you ever thought about it in that way, that when you're generous with people, you do tend to be civil and respect them, and it just goes a long way for me.
I heard a quote in getting ready for this show, and as a matter of fact, as you'll see, we have bump quotes between each segment, and I believe it's part of what I included, is that a professional is not someone who calls themselves a professional, but is someone others call a professional. and I think that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's particularly hard for lawyers to be civil and show respect. It's really hard to show generosity because so much of what we do is, particularly those of us who engage in litigation, is contentious.
Yeah,
it spills over from the contentiousness of the clients, our clients, the parties of the litigation. It spills over into the lawyers themselves, because most lawyers really do zealously represent their clients and hire the passion that their clients have in a dispute, hire the passion the lawyer generally brings to it. And so that contentiousness really makes it hard. But I remember, do you remember the old nursing homes litigation in MDL docket?
Yeah.
You remember that? Number 8, which was when number 8, and I don't know, now they're up into the thousands of the MDL docket cases. So, but we used to go to Baltimore because the Western District of Oklahoma in that case sat in Baltimore, which I thought was interesting. But lawyers came from all over the country to participate in that litigation. We would go at it all day long, and then we would go out and have dinner together, and everybody would have a good time. I think we've lost a little of that along the way.
I agree.
Has that been your experience?
It has. Yeah. That was certainly my experience when I started out early on, but we hit a time period that I would roughly say mid-70s to early 80s, when lawyers got out of law school thinking they needed to be tough guys or tough gals. They had to be a junkyard dog in order to be a good lawyer. And civility took a real hit during that time period. They soon found out that didn't work, and it's kind of gravitated back. Pendulum hasn't swung as far back as I would hope it would, and I feel confident it will, actually. But we're not there yet, I agree.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with whether you view the law as a trade or view it as an academic discipline. I always thought of law school as a true academic experience in the same way that PhD candidates feel about their jobs. I'm a little bit of a contrarian when it comes to law school curriculum because I do see the law as an academic discipline, and the only chance you ever really have to get it is in law school. And I wonder whether some of this contentiousness that seems built into the profession might not actually start in law school, where they're so emphasize now the training to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I always told people I learned the law at law school, but I learned how to practice the law at the Naval Academy and my service in the Navy. And, lawyers are in their jobs a long time generally. I mean, it's a good profession for people who really enjoy work and work for a long periods of time. So I kind of favor law school being the academic side of the law, because it's really interesting that way. You have the rest of your life to practice the trade. So I just wonder if that's not a piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Fred, you're looking at your resume again. You're so actively involved in community projects. How much time a week do you spend with nonprofits or in work that is for the community?
Well, the last several years, Mick, has really been a lot. I was probably, when I was serving as chair of the board of the University of Tulsa, spending 20 hours a week for a couple of years. Those were kind of special times. Normally I'm spending at least a full day a week. I'm talking about the business day, not counting the evening type of effort, but normally a full day a week or a day and a half or so. But it's what it just gives me pleasure to do it, and I really do enjoy doing it. So.
Fred Dorwart is our guest. We'll be back with more of The Verdict right after this.
One of the best kept secrets about the post 9/11 GI Bill benefit is that it can be used at a trade school or a technical school, and it doesn't have to be used at a university or college. These are benefits that the veterans have earned through their service, and they should take advantage of it.
Veterans really need to understand that there are many resources offered by the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs. They are there to help you find the right school for you, the school that will help you and your family make great steps into your future.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams ranked #2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
Mick, Cornett, and Kent Meyers back on The Verdict, and our guest is Fred Dorwart.
Fred, talk to us a little bit about your involvement with the University of Tulsa.
Well, I was asked. I was on the board at the University of Tulsa, and I kind of know why they asked me to do that because of my association with a foundation. So we know how that game gets played. But TU found itself actually ahead of the game when it came to the realization that there was going to need to be really fundamental changes in higher education, and I think this you can see that that's now pretty much in the public discussion about how we're going to have to be able to deliver the same high quality of instruction in higher education more efficiently and a lower cost. It's become increasingly difficult for even well-to-do families to finance higher education. So in 2017, they asked if I would become chair of the board. And we needed to and did take a very hard look at the way the university was operating at that point in time. TU was actually a little bit a victim of its own success. It had so many outstanding graduates at the highest level of academic achievement in terms of national scholarships and national academic recognition, but we weren't. The university was not delivering that same success to the less talented students, and it became a matter of national discussion in all of higher education that we were paying the cost of a lot of students, first generation students from underserved communities that were finding it very difficult in a college environment to succeed. And the graduation rates, and this is true nationally. I'm not talking just about the University of Tulsa now, but nationally that these students weren't having the same success as the others. Whose parents probably were college graduates and whose grandparents were college graduates. So actually the federal government took the lead because of its interest in Pell Grants about the success of students that were not the top students of the class academically. So we were compelled at TU to take a really hard look at our course offerings, how well they were supported, how they were financed, and it all had to start with the board of directors, and I think that's really why I was then asked, even though I was asked there for a different reason, to chair the board, because we really needed to reorganize the board to make it a compliance board, a true governing board. So we did that. We substantially reduced the number of trustees of the university. We focused on trustees who had varied time and expertise to serve on the board and were willing to serve as a true corporate body governing the affairs of the university. So we set out, having then reorganized the board, to try to drive that culture down through the organization, and it was created some difficulties for us. I'm sure everybody knows when there's change in an organization, it's difficult. Change benefits some people and is not a benefit to others. It's very difficult for them to accept. We had to step up the game in terms of organizational efficiency, work ethic, the course deliveries that we made. But we after a 2-year run, and that was kind of my commitment for it, and Dana Weber, who heads up WebCo here in Oklahoma, succeeded me. And the university just had a tremendous success through that period, and now is is poised to do those things that all universities are now striving to do in terms of the reduction of the cost of instruction.
Fred, our guest next week is incoming President Brad Carson. I assume that's a person you know very well.
I do know Brad Carson well. I served on our presidential search committee. Knew Brad when he started practicing law. I knew him as a successful politician, and I knew him as a successful government servant. Because of the difficulties that we had experienced in the reorganization of the university affecting the change, I was concerned about, in that presidential search, about the quantity and the quality of the candidates that we were going to get to be president of the university. Overwhelmed with both the quantity and the quality. We had high quantity, but we had high quality. And of course, when I saw that Brad was interested in coming back to Oklahoma, I was really, really excited about that. He just has such a outstanding record as an academic, student, and as an academic and as a government servant. So he'll be with us July 1, and we're really, really anxious to have him on board.
Fred, changing the subject just a minute, I know you have had association with the Gathering Place in Tulsa, its formation and its implementation into the city's atmosphere. Can you talk a little bit about how it's doing?
Well, it's really, really doing marvelously well. Of course, everything in life has been affected by the pandemic, but we were actually on record to break the attendance record when the pandemic slowed everything down. So we had to cut back the programming for the Gathering Place. The programming is key to the park itself. Have each of you seen the park and been in the park?
Yeah, I've been there several times. It's magnificent.
I have not.
Yeah, the park is really, I mean, it's just the physical nature of it, and Valkenburg did such a great job in the design of it, and Crossland Construction did a marvelous job of execution. The whole community, as you know, came together for that. Not only did the George Kaiser Family Foundation put in all of the seed money, but there was tremendous support from the entire philanthropic community, tremendous support from the city itself. But what really made it important what is the programming, the extensive programming at the park. Mm-hmm. Our mission at the park was truly to gather all of the citizens of Tulsa together, from our African American community to Hispanic community, all the elements of the community. And when you're in the park, you really see everybody in the city gathering. And as we do about naming the park, we kept talking about it being a place to gather or a gathering place.
Fred, about 30 seconds left.
We just named that.
Yeah, about 30 seconds left in the show. How do you want us to close out this show?
Well, how do I want you to close out the show? Join us. I'll do it this way. Join us, if you will, because we're all really involved right now with the 1921 Race Massacre Commission. And everybody in the city of Tulsa is joining in that effort to bring everybody together on this celebration, the 100th anniversary of that race massacre. And maybe you could encourage your audience to join us in that commemoration. It would be terrific.
Consider it done. Fred, thank you very much for being on The Verdict.
Thanks, Fred. It's awfully good to see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Kent and I'll be right back.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Fred Dorwart involved in so many successful projects.
Yeah, he is indeed the consummate professional. I'm glad we were able to bring him to our viewers.
That's right. And as Fred asked, be not only mindful, but be a participant in Tulsa's look back at the 1921 race massacre, and see how you can attend events, and we can all help be part of the difference in the outcome. We'll be back next week with another show, and we'll have incoming president at TU, Brad Carson, as our guest. We'll look forward to seeing you then.